We have a jam-packed week full of planetary transits. This is a loaded week. We have a lot going on. There are going to be a ton of Sun transits, a ton of Venus transits, and a few Mercury transits. With the Sun, our attention is going to go on our ego, our confidence, and the need for some attention on ourselves. Venus will have us focusing on self-worth issues, issues to do with our relationships, and anything to do with finances and career. And with the Mercury stuff, our focus is going to go on our internal dialogue and the way we communicate with others. And this is going to be an edgy week. Most of the alignments, I would say a big percentage of the alignments are harder alignments. So this week is going to be keyed up. This week is going to get us going. This week is going to cause us to take a lot of action in situations that we need to take care of. There are some sweet spots, even if there are harder alignments, and most of them have to do with Jupiter. But for the most part, this week has some edge to it. So we're starting out the first week of November with a lot of triggery stuff. As I'm looking at the vibes on the graph, it absolutely reflects the urge to be more motivated than normal to take care of things, because we have some ambitious energy. We also have some good luck energy. Now, of course, with some of the harder alignments, that can cause some issues. But again, we have some harder alignments that are connecting to Jupiter, and some of the planets that are connecting to Jupiter, generally for it being complex, it helps us. So there may be some fortunate moments that come because we're willing to take more risk than normal. We're feeling more bolder than normal this week. So this should help us in that way. And also the Sun will be connecting to Mars in a way that could light a fire under us. So this may be helpful in some sort of way, even if this week feels chaotic. There is emotional sensitivity. It's popping up on the 31st, and it's also popping up on the 4th all the way up until the 6th. Again, this week in itself is going to feel triggery, especially with some of the things that are going on. Some of that emotional sensitivity is intersecting psychic energy on the 31st, and also some romantic energy, also a smidge of mental energy. So we could be in our heads about a few things with relationships. We could feel extrasensory. We could feel sensitive to energies, but also relationship-wise, we might have some sensitive moments. That psychic energy will pop back up on the 2nd all the way up until the 3rd, which will be another day where we're feeling more open than normal when it comes down to our intuition. And when we get to the weekend, we have a huge amount of romantic energy mixed in with mental energy, and of course that emotional sensitivity that's popping up. So there are definitely some sweet spots when it comes to relationships. There's definitely some flirty energy. So this could be a week where if you're in a healthy relationship, seeing romance will be off the charts. If you're single, this could be a period where you're meeting someone where you have a lot of intensity with. And you know, there's some harder stuff that's going on the weekend with relationship stuff. So it could be a period of having a realization of you're worth more than what you're getting from a person. And so now it's time for you to find an exit strategy. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting week for sure. Let's look at the next bunch of days and see what we can expect. As a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. There's a link in the description box below. Halloween will have an interesting tone about it. Not that it doesn't already, but with the transits that are occurring on the 31st, we could have moments where we're feeling foggy one moment and the next dealing with relationship stuff. To start, the Sun is making a Sesquiquadrate with Neptune, which could cause us to feel slightly unmotivated and somewhat foggy on that day. This is one of the main reasons where I say Halloween's going to have a weird tone to it, because generally this is a very active time, this is a very vibrant time, and it's not saying that it won't be, but there may be some low-key feelings going on in the background of feeling either faint or feeling wiped out in some sort of way, because when the Sun and Neptune get together in this alignment, sometimes it causes us to feel like we need a nap. All of a sudden we feel drained out of nowhere, and so this could be a day where you might feel like you're dragging your feet more than normal. Or if you got some of those Halloween plans out of the way over the weekend, maybe you're still hungover and this is why you're feeling that way. I mean, we are dealing with Sun and Neptune, and that has a lot to do with drinking as well, or your vitality being zapped due to drinking. So some of that booze might still be in your system. Also, some of the draining energy could be dealing with other people. In other words, other people could be draining you with their drama. Other people can be draining you because they happen to be low vibrational in some sort of way. So you want to do the best you can to protect your energy. Remember that psychic energy was popping up on the graph, mixed in with emotional sensitivity. So you might be sensitive to other people's emotions, and if there's a little bit of low vibrational energy, that could also zap your energy. So do the best you can when this energy hits. Because on that same day, Venus is making a Sesquiquadrate with Mars. And this is a retrograde alignment. Mars went into retrograde yesterday on the 30th. And so this alignment will circle back to us around December 29th. So there's going to be 2 hits with this alignment. There will be a lot of hits between Venus and Mars during this retrograde. So of course, when these happen, I will cover them as I always do. So we have a lot of them though that are coming up with Mars and Venus. So there's a lot of relationship stuff that needs to be worked out, or financial stuff that needs to be worked out when these energies pop up. So the good thing with this alignment is, on one hand, it can give us a massive dose of passion. This is why we're seeing some of the romantic energy popping up through this week, also with all the other Venus alignments that will be happening this week. But this can bring out a lot of passion. This could bring out a lot of intimacy. This could be cause for makeup sex a lot of the time with this energy, especially if you've been fighting. This could be a time of coming back together and making nice with one another. This can also result in a dose of flirty exchanges on that day. And with Mars being in Gemini, this might reveal someone who has a secret crush on you. And this person is communicating over text or DM. But mainly in this situation, on the lower vibration of this energy, it can bring up a situation where you're having to fix patterns in a bad relationship, in a relationship where there's a lot of drama, in a relationship where it's makeup to breakup all the time, where there's a lot of deceit, there's a lot of arguing, there's a lot of past pain that's gone on in the relationship. And so this can key up, this could rev up some of those situations and bring them to the forefront so they can be resolved at some point. Whether that resolution is getting out of that situation, or the resolution is going through some sort of third party to help you guys mediate what's going on in your relationship. So it's helpful in that way, even if it is uncomfortable. So do the best you can when this energy hits. The second is a day of more Venus-Mars stuff. However, there's separate alignments that are occurring. Venus will quincunx Chiron, and Mars will be in an alignment with the Sun. The Sun's going to make a sesquiquadrate to Mars that day. Going back to the Venus stuff and breaking unhealthy patterns in relationships, with this Venus-Chiron situation, it can reveal where we may have had some blind spots when it comes down to our love life, and maybe we're coming to a realization regarding romantic situations that we need to work on not shrinking ourselves to fit into a relationship, not abandoning ourselves, and where we might be unintentionally practicing self-betrayal in relationships in order to have love in our lives. This realization can come from recognizing that we've been overly sacrificial because we're starting to build up resentment towards this person. So it's finally making us aware of some of our own behaviors and what we need to do to change that. This could also open our eyes to how not being realistic has come at a cost to us, and we're starting to see where we've settled or where we've accepted some bad behavior from others in terms of deceitful behavior and other forms of disloyalty. What's the importance of seeing things for what they are, why we need to build ourselves back up again confidence-wise, and why we need to start gaining some healthy self-worth so we're not staying in these situations. And this could also relate to job as well. These things happen when it comes down to the jobs we take. So it could be a situation where we're realizing that we're settling, or we've been on autopilot at a bad job and it's time to start dusting off that resume and seeing what else is out there, because we deserve better and we deserve more in terms of pay or whatever else might be going on. There could be a toxic culture going on at the job and we've just been kind of sleepwalking through the whole thing, and now we're starting to realize, yeah, a change has to be made. So the best thing you could do in these scenarios is look at this as a nudge that it's time for you to find something better for yourself on all levels. Even if it's not right away, this is a nice nudge to push you in the right direction so you can come up with a game plan for yourself to have better. Unlike that last alignment, the other transit that we have going on that day is pretty cocky. The Sun is going to be making a sesquiquadrate with Mars, which is another retrograde alignment, so this will come back around again on January 13th, 2023, and this is a couple of days after Mars goes direct. So an alignment like this could bring out situations where someone's acting overconfident due to low self-esteem. So it's not real cockiness, it's more false bravado, because anyone who's puffing themselves up to make themselves feel better is absolutely someone who's suffering from low self-esteem. But through this alignment, we could see situations where someone might be bossing someone else around because of it, someone might be coming off in a manner that's belittling to others. Just this vibe of someone really throwing their weight around and peacocking all over the place. Because this is a retrograde alignment, this could be about standing up for yourself towards people like that, or it could be about checking our own egos. So this might be a reality check on both fronts, where we're learning how to assert ourselves, so having an experience where someone's calling us out for our antics. On another note with this alignment, if you do have healthy confidence, the good thing about this is it does give you the motivation you need to get things done. It does get you taking more risk. So this could be a time where you're learning how to put yourself out there more in this energy. And this is why we're seeing the motivation and ambitious energy coming up on the graph, because this is very helpful in terms of pushing us to do the things that we need to get done. So channel this in the most healthy way possible so that way you're getting the best results. Thursday is loaded with transits that could lead us astray and also lead to some miscommunication issues. Venus is going to make a sesquiquadrate with Jupiter on that day. And the thing with this alignment is Venus and Jupiter, when they come together, they're not the most hard stuff, but they do bring out some harsh issues. And so with this alignment, we can have a lot of fun with it, which is great. And we need that. And honestly, I welcome this. Sometimes I also welcome the cocky alignments too, rather than, feeling down on yourself. But with this one, we can feel extra pumped up on ourselves. So that could definitely inflate more situations. The good inflation that comes from this is we will feel confident enough to take some risk, and this could lead to luck. This is where we were seeing some of that good luck energy with some of the Jupiter stuff, with Venus connecting to Jupiter. But the issue with this is we could feel so confident in ourselves and so much that something's a sure thing. We could take some risks that may not pay off, so we need to be careful with that. We need to be careful not to get carried away. And sometimes with this carried away, it leads to drinking. It leads to eating too much. This is one of those things where it's such an edgy week, and this is a thirsty Thursday. You could have the urge to have more drinks than you normally would. So before you know it, you're hungover and maybe you have to go to work next day. Or you have other responsibilities you have to take care of. And so that kind of just goes down the drain. Also, on a romantic level, this is not one of those alignments where it's good for committal stuff. It's good for if you're looking to have a good time. This brings out our hedonistic side. This brings out our reckless side when it comes down to intimacy. So this might be a day of just doing fun and flirty things with no strings attached. So it inflates those things. Again, that's not a bad thing, but it's something to be aware of. You're being too reckless. And you'll want to have as much awareness as you can and check yourself as much as you can, because that same day, Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate with Neptune, and this can add more fog and confusion and some unrealistic expectations in situations with others. This is the type of transit that could bring uncertainty when it comes down to conversations, when it comes down to the way someone else is responding to you. And so you may take them the wrong way and you might misread what they're saying. So something you want to be careful with. I would say, due to the impulse that's in the air, you might want to wait before you send a text message. Or if you're upset or you've been waiting for someone and you feel like it's been too long, let's say it's been 15 minutes since you heard back from them, give them some time to send that text back to you, because you never know what might be happening. And with this unclear energy, it can result in saying the wrong thing and coming from a place of making scenarios up in your head. And so you're thinking someone's doing the wrong thing to you when they're really not. And we'll have to be mindful of that, because the next day, Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to Mars. So this is also occurring with Mars. And what happens is, with Mars is in retrograde on top of that. But also Mercury connecting in this alignment to Mars can drudge up tempers. It can drudge up anger issues. It can cause people to trash talk. It can cause people to be irate. So you just don't want to have a rushed judgment call and just text someone anything, because it could lead to an argument and a dispute rather than it going smoothly and you guys understanding one another. So there's a lot of miscommunication stuff on top of edgy stuff that's going on with this. So there's a little bit of aggression in the air as we get to the 4th. But with this being a retrograde alignment, this can bring up where you do need to speak up for yourself, where you do need to assert yourself with other people. But this could also bring up situations, if you've been the type of person to steamroll others, where you need to stand back and listen to what others say to you. But things can escalate pretty quickly when you have an alignment like this. So try your best to ground your energy. Of course, this is going to come back around. We will see this one again when Mars is in the post shadow on February 9th, 2023. Adding to the fluctuating moods, by the time we get to the 5th, the Sun's making a quincunx with Chiron, and that same day, Venus is making an opposition with Uranus. So the weekend is going to have an interesting tone to it. Interestingly, with Venus and Uranus, that one can have its fun moments. However, we do have to be careful. With the Sun and Chiron situation, we might be experiencing some self-doubt when this one comes up, because it tends to take the wind out of our sails when it comes down to our ego. We could have our moods go up and down. We could feel self-defeat. We could feel extra pessimistic about situations. Some of those feelings could have been all the stuff that happened happen throughout the week. So again, this week is edgy. It has a sting to it. So some of that could be bringing our self-esteem down a bit. So we might need to do things to pep ourselves up as long as they're healthy, like getting out, getting some fresh air, doing things with friends and family if you're feeling up to being around people, and just researching ways to find healthier coping skills and healthy ways to boost our self-confidence. On that same day, Venus is making an opposition with Uranus, and with Venus making an opposition with Uranus, I will say we can have some fun with this one. We need the fun. We have to be aware of how we're handling ourselves, because this can also bring out reckless party vibes to it, especially after an edgy week. A lot of the times, sometimes you just want to have a drink, sometimes you just want to have fun, sometimes you just want to let your hair down after you've had a stressful week. So this is going to give us that urge to do so and really push us to do so. We just have to be aware of how we're doing it, what we're doing, and just make sure that we're not doing things just to do things. In other words, being reckless for reckless sake or to get a reaction out of others, and more so just to blow off steam. Also with this, it's a very abrupt energy, so there may be moments where you're feeling like making a sudden break, especially if you've been in a restrictive relationship, a relationship that's toxic, a relationship that hasn't allowed you to be yourself. The theme about relationships this week is breaking free from unhealthy patterns, and this alignment is very helpful in that. You just want to make sure you're doing things the right way and not in a way that's going to create chaos. As I always say, I don't believe in staying in unhealthy situations, and if you're going to leave an unhealthy situation, make sure you have a proper strategy for leaving that situation, so that way it's not as hard on you, although it is a hard and uncomfortable situation. But just make sure you have a game plan, because this one here can cause us to act on impulse, but sometimes impulse happens when you gotta go, and that may be that feeling that day. But this really gives us a need to shake things up in our lives. If things have been boring, we're gonna want to go out and have the most craziest adventures and get in touch with our inner wild child, which again, in a lot of ways, I welcome that because it's necessary. You just want to be aware of that. And also with this, be aware of spending, because this can cause fluctuating luck when it comes down to money and career situations. So try not to make any crazy gambles when it comes down to that. Also with this, because Venus is how we adorn ourselves, try not to make any crazy decisions with your appearance too, just because you're stressed out. This is one of those alignments where we can get asymmetrical brows as a result of this. So don't make any important eyebrow decisions during this time, or, I usually say bad bangs too, because that happens with this, or the wrong hair color, or, you go out and you buy some clothes, retail therapy from a stressful week, and then you buy a bunch of shit that you really don't like when you look at it when you get home. So you just want to be aware with that, because nobody likes wasting money and nobody likes messing up their appearance. So do the best you can when this energy hits and try to ground yourself the best way possible. By the time we get to the 6th, we have some fluctuating energies. We have Mercury making a quincunx with Chiron, the Sun's going to make a sesquiquadrate with Jupiter, and Venus is going to make a square with Saturn. So these are really mixed alignments. With the Mercury stuff, we could find ourselves dwelling on the past. We could find ourselves stuck in our heads about gloomy situations. So it's an energy about ruminating about things we can't change, ruminating and getting on this toxic cycle, this toxic loop of thoughts about uncomfortable things that happen to us, embarrassing things, and just things people have said about us. So we might have to find ways to recalibrate our mind so we're not focusing on those things, like finding healthy coping mechanisms, researching healthy ways to resolve old trauma so that way we're purging out some of that stuff, and realizing we're not our thoughts, realizing we're not what people have said about us in the past, because other people's opinions don't dictate who we are and what we're going to become. Unlike that Mercury alignment, the Sun's going to make a sesquiquadrate with Jupiter, and that in itself can inflate self-importance a lot of the time, which is also not something we want. We always need a balance when it comes down to our confidence, and this doesn't give that. This gives the opposite end of that Mercury situation, where we're really feeling ourselves and we're really believing that we are the best thing ever. And again, I would rather you guys feel good about yourselves than obviously bad, but you do want to be careful with this one, because when you do come back down, it does deflate very hard. So you can go from feeling on top of the world one moment and down the next moment. However, this does bring in a sense of fun. This does bring in, again, that need to take the edge off. So getting drunk might be a thing people do on Sunday. You've got stuff going on Sunday. It's Sunday fun day. So why not? But you just want to pay attention and make sure you're not overdoing it, especially with all the crazy shit we have in the air currently. You just want to make sure you're not overdoing it. Absolutely have fun and let your hair down. And this is why I welcome this alignment. However, you just want to make sure you're not going too far and off the deep end, especially when it comes down to overindulgence and especially when it comes down to spending. So be aware of that, because that can become problematic in this energy. On that day, Venus is making a square with Saturn, which could also be a deflating energy. However, there might be a glimmer of hope because you're coming to a realization that you can no longer sustain a situation where you're not getting what you need. In other words, this could have a lot to do with a job that's unfulfilling. This could have a lot to do with a relationship that's unfulfilling. You could be coming to that final decision that this is what you need to do and that it's time to move forward. And the most realistic thing for you to do is make some sort of game plan and strategy to get out of these situations. The theme this week for relationships is definitely getting out of unhealthy situations, and this is what makes it so hard and edgy. So this is a week about seeing what's meaningless, where you need to change how you show up in relationships, and why you must cut loose people who are taking advantage in a relationship, or someone who's not offering you anything in the relationship in terms of emotional support, in terms of passion, vulnerability, and just healthy intimacy overall. Also with this alignment, we can realize where we're being overly responsible for other people and we're having to set limits with other people in terms of what they're getting out of us. So if you come to the realization that people have been taking advantage of your responsible nature, this might be the time to set boundaries and start saying no in those situations. So yeah, this week is definitely bitey. The first week of November is absolutely packing a punch. We are kicking the door in terms of November and how it starts. So try to take care of yourselves the best way you can and take breaks when needed and do as much needed self-care as possible. See you in the next episode.